Hi, my name is Lisa, and I'm a maladaptive daydreamer. It means that my imagination, my dreams, don't let me live the real life. I've lost connection with my friends, my family, and almost lost my job. But let's start from the beginning. When I was a kid, my parents used to fight all the time, and I ended up playing alone. It was not easy for me to make friends, and all I had were books and school. As a result, I've created my own world where I could escape.
Where the daydreaming and neurotic behavior started was right after my best friend Sean moved away. And this was like 2nd or 3rd grade, I can't remember which. I started, I didn't have any more friends, and I was picked on and bullied a lot in school.
U většiny z nich to začalo v dětství. Nebo prostě v dětství, nebo někdy prostě v té pubertě, v adolescenci, ale že to vždycky jako už je dlouhodobá záležitost. Třeba s přestávkama.
This involves a unique trait, the ability for immersive, vivid fantasy.
I don't just see the daydreams, I experience them as if they were happening to me here and now.
So the combination of having the trait and having other stressful circumstances can contribute to the development of the disorder, because it is sometimes for some people much preferable to live in an imaginary, self-created, self-controlled world than in the painful reality. And when they grow up, then it becomes a habit, and living in a world in which they have full control.
In my dreams, I was partying or marrying the right guy. And another day, I was dreaming about fights and situations that I don't want to be in, but I couldn't stop daydreaming. The plots could be both realistic and fantastic, but all of them evoked strong emotions.
I've daydreamed whole worlds with their own particular nuanced things. I've created characters with backstories.
Možná, že v tom denním snění člověk potřebuje prožít hodně těch silných emocí, takových těch, co vám úplně svírají hrudník a bolí vás srdce. Nebo potřebujou vlastně jakoby z úzkosti se v tom denním snění na něco nepříjemného připravit.
For other people it may look totally crazy. To daydream I need music and some kind of movement, walking or pacing. It makes me fall into some kind of trance.
I would pace back and forth. Sometimes I'd sit on the edge of my bed and I would speak out loud.
And it also has some unique features in the sense that it, in many cases, requires some sort of movement which we don't understand the function of, either walking, pacing, rocking, which we don't find in OCD. And in many cases also there is a great importance to music, to playing music as to evoke the like a musical score of a film, to evoke the emotions.
If you hear a certain song or whatever, it might remind you of a scene that's played out before, and boom, it's right back.
I thought that once I grew up and leave my parents' house, I would stop daydreaming and enjoy my life. It was not the case. I realized that nothing in real life brings me pleasure and happiness comparable to my fantasies. I just couldn't stop daydreaming, and it got out of my control. I've started less seeing my friends, my family, and almost lost my job because I was not able to concentrate.
Že jako maladaptivní už se může označovat to, které nějak přesahuje nějakou míru, které prostě zabírá větší část toho klientova dne nebo toho lidského dne, kde člověk utíká od reality.
It was like someone sat you down in a chair and tied you to the chair, turned on the TV and forced you to watch these movies and images and scenes going through my mind. I could not turn them off. It was 24/7.
So apparently the need to daydream competes with attention resources, and so demands attention resources. And some people occasionally, every few minutes, slip into a brief period of fantasizing, and that can interfere with concentration. So people can become more forgetful about where they put stuff. What the comorbidity of maladaptive daydreaming with attention deficit disorder is very high. Over 70% of people with maladaptive daydreaming have concentration problems.
We're not paying attention, so we make stupid ass mistakes, and people literally think we're retarded. I've had people think that I have a mental disability before.
I'm a textile designer and I'm an artist. And I found when it was at its worst, I didn't paint, I didn't draw, I didn't do anything. It's like I had no creativity left over for anything because it was all just sucked up into this disorder.
Every day I fight with myself trying to control daydreaming, and I always lose. It's like a drug addiction, and life without it is very dull. Sometimes I can handle several days without daydreaming, but then I desperately need another dose. I spent days and nights without leaving my room, nor eating and neither sleeping, just daydreaming.
Is an illustration of how rewarding this activity is. It is more rewarding than food, imagine, or than the need to sleep, or sometimes the need for sex. I mean, the amount of dopamine probably that it releases in the brain is incredible.
When it was at its worst, in real life, I was numb. I felt nothing. The only emotions I felt were in the daydream.
You're distressed with this mental activity, which is fun, which is fine. Of course, unless it becomes your primary way of being in the world, in fantasy, then it's a problem.
To ask, how big a deal is this thing? It's like it's practically a third or maybe even a half of my life. In fact, if you really think about it, that is where I lived. And the real world is where I visited.
And there was times when it was so disturbing that during my walk, I would stop and I would just hit trees. And I've never told anybody this, but I would just hit trees and scream, "This isn't real, this isn't real, stop, stop, stop."
They're disappointed at themselves because of their weakness and their inability to control their daydreaming, and because they waste their life away in fantasy rather than progressing in life and advancing their goals. So that makes them depressed.
It becomes a vicious cycle. It's like, I daydream because I'm stressed, and I'm stressed because I daydream.
Procrastination is something to be ashamed of. Yeah, I think so. The time wasted, because you're wasting your potential. You're not sharing what's in your head with the rest of the world, which would most likely be very well received and be really well loved.
These are individuals who want to socialize very much, but are afraid to be rejected. So they create a very active and enjoyable social life in their minds, but dig their hole deeper in terms of being isolated from other individuals. So that's a risk there, because this activity, if employed excessively, is isolating.
It costs you real connections. You're not able to connect with yourself. You have a distorted view of yourself. You have a distorted view of the world, and you have a distorted view of people in general.
I was ashamed to ask for help. I've looked up information online and found studies of Dr. Soma, who was the first one to describe maladaptive daydreaming as a phenomenon in 2002. I felt such a relief. I'm not alone. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I have also found online groups of daydreamers with thousands of subscribers, supporting each other and sharing ideas how to handle maladaptive daydreaming, as there is no official treatment yet.
We borrowed a few ideas from the treatment of addictions. For example, in improving the motivation, because as we discussed, it is extremely rewarding. You need to have a high motivation, that is to be able to tell yourself in self-statements what are the prices you pay for continuing to do it, and what do you stand to gain if you control it. And these self-statements need to be repeated daily to keep the motivation high.
Ale možná bych mu doporučila, aby si třeba sestavil nějakou tabulku a tam si zaznamenal, kolik jsem dneska strávil sněním, nebo čím to začalo.
And I started doing journaling and I started, I guess, performing therapy on myself. And I started to deal with a lot of that pain. I realized my compulsion to daydream stopped.
Learning to manage my time and applying that time management to working on those creative endeavors has helped immensely.
If you're mindful about the external world, you cannot be absorbed internally. Because you are aware of how you sit and how you wash your dishes and the sounds of the water and it's a skill of being present.
Myslím, že jsme nikdy jako cíleně nepracovali na tom denním snění, ale spíš na těch okolních tématech a ono to denní snění pak buď trošku ztratilo význam, anebo se mírně změnilo.
I've struggled and like I said, it's a lot better now. I think because one, that my hormones have settled down some, and also I've learned a lot of techniques to help control it.
If you have an empty life and daydreaming is your escape, you don't fix the daydreaming, you fix the empty life.
I think proper therapy for MADD is manifesting those dreams to reality, as well as learning how to be an adult and deal with the harshness of life, period.
There are coming new researches, and new data should lead to better understanding and treatment of maladaptive daydreaming and its possible inclusion to the new edition of the Manual of Mental Disorders. Maladaptive daydreaming starts as an escape mechanism, but once transformed to behavioral addiction, can ruin lives. No one should ever be ashamed to talk about it and search for support if needed. Everything's gonna be alright. And this time in the real world.